So FS1 has officially made a move for their kicker offer, their morning program to get the day going. First things first, they've officially hired Chris Broussard as one of their co-hosts. He will come in and replace the role of Brandon Marshall. If you've been watching First Things First over the last year or so, you know that following the Chris Carter era, I don't know who made this play. My guess is Nick Wright maybe made a call or two. I don't know that to be true, but they brought Brandon Marshall in. And, you know, for all the things that make me laugh about Brandon Marshall, I watch First Things First on YouTube. I watch the clips maybe every now and then. You know, Brandon Marshall is a guy that, to me, he's got some pretty good takes. He's just not good at expressing them and communicating them. And his words gets a little scrambled. But what Brandon Marshall was able to do for First Things First at the time that he was able to do it, is very important. Let's call a spade in the room. We'll get to Chris Broussard in a second. The First Things First show was going to literally it was going to go into the toilet with just Nick Wright and Kevin Wildes. I don't care what people are just not going to respect two non-athletes who don't also have experience and have that credibility in the streets as reporters. It's as simple as that. Like, you can't have neither. Nick Wright ain't a respected reporter out here. Neither is Kevin Wildes, to the best of my knowledge. Neither of these guys just jump off of your screen as respected reporters. So you think people are going to tune in the morning and just listening to two guys, by the way, neither African-American, talk about African-American sports. It was never going to work that way. And they brought in Brandon Marshall following Chris Carter. Again, remember, Chris, Hall of Famer, had that credibility that it helped that show kick off. Brandon Marshall was a guy. He did do for First Things First, and I don't want to minimize that at all. Brandon's contract was up at the end of the month. Apparently, he's going to pursue other things. I don't know who said, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. Was it Brandon's side? Was it FS1 side? Was it a mutual decision? Who knows? But Chris Broussard now comes in. He was already a analyst for FS1, and now he officially gets a role with First Things First. I think he brings a lot to the table. You know, this Kevin Wildes guy, look, I can say this about him. He doesn't detract from the show to me. And that's important. Like, there are people that you bring them on to your shows, and I'm like, yo, bro, they make the show worse. And there were days when Brandon Marshall made the show worse. But that cosign from Brandon Marshall, a former wide receiver that everybody knew was in his heyday was a really good player, that still helped overall. But Kevin Wildes doesn't make the show worse, right? I'd only bring that up to say, you got Nick Wright and Chris Broussard. Let them go at it. Chris Broussard is a guy, every now and then he'll go off the deep end with a take or two, but he's pretty much as consistent a co-host they got over there at FS1, an analyst they got. You bring him in with the credibility that he's earned as a reporter. He's still got a lot of relationships in the business. You bring him in, people know his face. Nick Wright is somebody that I don't agree with a lot of his LeBron takes. I don't think LeBron's better than Mike. I don't think Pat Mahomes is the GOAT. I don't think those things. But Nick Wright he's a sensical thinker more times than not. Like, when he talks, it makes sense to me. Chris Broussard makes sense to me. You got two guys that make sense more times than not. Hell, they make sense more than Shannon and Skip do consistently, if you want me to be real with you. Or Marcellus and Nacho do consistently. So you got those two gentlemen going at it in the morning. And I think this lines up for a pretty good build at FS1. This is good. All right? Like, following the Chris Carter era, and you now got Chris Broussard, Nick Wright in the morning. Lead you right into Shannon and Skip. That's your moneymaker right there. And then in the evening, to be fair to Acho and Wiley, they have stepped it up a lot. So FS1's making some moves. They clearly have a lineup over there that is just a lot more known than the talents that ESPN's putting out during the day, not named Stephen A. Smith. The only difference is ESPN and FS1 is FS1. You watch sports on ESPN. You don't watch sports on FS1 more times than not. For Chris Broussard, I think it's a great move for him. I'm curious to see, will he continue to do his radio show with Rob Parker at night? Now, I know he's been a guy that's been able to juggle those things in the past. It's different when it's your show, though, because now you invested. It's your show. If this thing tanks, your name is attached to it officially. So I don't know if he continues that radio show at night. I know one thing. I don't know how much longer FS1's going to be remote. Outside, for half of that program's remote, half of it's not, right? Colin's in studio. Skip and Shannon are in studio. but most of the guests they bring on are remote at this point. Acho and Wiley are in studio, but pretty much all of their guests are remote at this point. So I don't know how long FS1 will remain pretty much remote for everybody. Not named your host or your two hosts. We'll see. That's interesting to me because I think if Chris Broussard's gonna have to start going back in the studio at First Things First, that might alter his decision with Rob Parker. And speaking of Rob Parker, Chris Broussard, I've listened to him and Rob a few times, and more than a few times. I've listened to him. Chris has been able to just run over Rob Parker. He's just run him over. What I like about Nick Wright is he ain't going to let Chris run over him. And I do like that. So we'll see. I think this is pretty good, as good as it can get for debate-style television in the morning. I like the move from Chris. I'm kind of shocked that he didn't – I don't know this, but, I think Chris had a lot of leverage to potentially go back to ESPN. I'm not sure what his situation is, but I know he's in New York, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, First Take's there. I was thinking maybe, he might get a look at being the replacement to Max Kellerman. I knew his contract was up soon. Sometimes you're just free at the right times. I was thinking he was going to get a shot to potentially go back to First Take. He's somebody that I could see potentially being a replacement for Max, but obviously he chose to stay with FS1, be loyal to them, and now he is the new co-host of First Things First.